Apathy is a solution.
Can you hear me, Detective?
Hey, how did you get like this?
Detective!
There wasn't one thing, I can tell you that.
But the conditions here
You care. You care.
You want?
are horrible.
Damn right.
Is that supposed to be funny?
Thanks for watching my film analysis of director David Fincher's 1995 neo-noir psychological crime thriller Seven, written by Andrew Kevin Walker and starring Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Kevin Spacey.
Is that supposed to be funny?
Before I get started, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Godfather of Cinema, movie reviews and more. Give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit the bell so that you won't miss any new videos that I'll upload in the future.
It's impressive to see a man feeding off his emotions.
Seven begins with a crime of passion in a rundown tenement apartment. The murder weapon is a double-barrel shotgun. Did the wife confess to killing her husband?
You can't see it.
What kind of fucking question is that?
Who cares? Detective Teller just wants to wrap this scene because all that matters to him is that another man is dead, another John Doe, like Detective Somerset. It is young Detective Mills' first day on the job, and he will be replacing Somerset, who is retiring in 7 days. Even so, Somerset thinks that they should stop by a bar, talk, and get to know each other.
I thought we might find a bar someplace.
But Mills just wants to jump right into the shit.
How much time for this transition thing?
Besides, they will only be working together for 7 days, so what would be the point of them getting to know each other anyway? Also, speaking of John Does, there's the fat man at the morgue accused of gluttony and forced to eat himself to death. The dead man has a name, but Detective Mills calls him a
fat fuck ever stood out his front door.
fat, and the pathologist calls him a body or just another John Doe. Like his killer, the FBI is hooked into the public library system to monitor the reading habits of individuals who check out flagged books such as or Detective Somerset and Detective Mills pay an informant for a list of people who have checked out books referencing the 7 deadly sins, and they get a name, Jonathan Doe, whose anonymous name is later reinforced when the police obtain a warrant. Sweep his apartment but find no fingerprints, no pay stubs, and no calendars. Nothing to identify him other than his anonymous name. He is no one, and yet everyone at the same time.
Fuck you, I got your picture, man!
In a city in which the strange has become the norm. Like the first cop to arrive at the gluttony murder scene, who should have checked the fat man's vitals but didn't.
Apathy.
Because he saw a man sitting in his own crap with his face buried in a plate full of spaghetti. But the fat man couldn't possibly be alive. Is this lazy cop's lame excuse.
He wasn't dead.
Which pisses Mills off.
He would have stood up by now.
But not Detective Somerset, who carries on with his job like the lazy cop had done nothing wrong in not checking the fat man's vitals, because it is normal for cops like Officer Davis to make arbitrary decisions on who is dead and who isn't dead at a crime scene, regardless of all of the times that he is wrong about who is dead and who isn't dead at a crime scene. Instead of reprimanding Officer Davis for being lazy and careless, Somerset reprimands Detective Mills for making a big deal out of it in the first place.
Would you please be quiet?
It also seems strange to Somerset that Mills would fight to get transferred from a nice quiet town to a city full of apathy and hate.
I've never seen it done that way before.
As it seems strange to Mills that Somerset, the most talented detective on the force, would retire in 7 days.
Hey, how did you get like this?
And move out to a farm when the city needs someone like him the most. As it seems strange to Somerset that Mills could allow himself to be tricked into buying an apartment directly above the subway.
Vibrating home.
Which is why Somerset has a metronome that shuts out all distractions,
Apathy.
so that he can close his eyes, sleep, and settle into apathy and forgetfulness like the city. But David's wife, Tracy, is from a nice quiet town and sees all of the strange things in the city that Somerset can no longer or refuses to see anymore.
Apathy.
Like the man that she saw on that crowded train with a magazine open on his lap and his hand in his pocket. No one seems to take notice of this man or care, because such a thing occurring on the train has become normal to them, and they have learned, like Somerset, to ignore things that are difficult to face instead of facing those things and changing them. But not Detective Mills.
Our great war is a spiritual war.
He and Somerset get John Doe's address from the FBI's database of flagged books and go by his apartment. They get into a shootout. He leads them on a foot chase. He gets away and they go back to his apartment. Detective Mills wants to kick down his door, despite Somerset's warning to think about the consequences. They do not have a warrant, but Mills doesn't care, because he feeds off of his emotions.
They piss me off.
After seeing the tortured body of John Doe's victim, Victor, or Sloth,
Sloth.
Mills is no longer interested in catching John Doe. He wants to hurt him yet again. Somerset reminds Mills to think about the consequences. They have to block out their emotions and focus on the details, like the metronome. He focuses on every night to block out distractions, like the tiny pieces of blue plastic that the pathologist recovers from the fat man's stomach at the morgue. They go back to the fat man's apartment to look for clues. To Mills, the tiny pieces of plastic that were found in the fat man's stomach are irrelevant, but to Somerset, they are important. It's the small details to him that count. And finding scratches on the floor in front of the refrigerator, they pull out the refrigerator to see the word gluttony written in grease, and a note from the killer John Doe. Looking over photos of the murder of her husband, Mrs. Gold notices something. The abstract painting in her husband's office is upside down. Somerset and Mills examine this painting and find nothing. To Mills, an abstract painting hanging upside down is irrelevant, but not to Somerset, who uses his fingerprint kit to brush the wall until the words "help me" in fingerprints gradually begin to appear.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Again, Somerset's obsession with focusing on one detail to the exclusion of everything else is analogous to how he uses the metronome
Apathy.
to block out noise and the regrets of his life. David's wife, Tracy, invites him over for dinner one night and later to meet her at a cafe for coffee. She is pregnant and hasn't told David yet because she does not want to have a child and raise it in this kind of city. And Somerset is the only person she knows that she can talk to about it. He was in a relationship a long time ago.
It's very much like a marriage.
With a woman like Tracy, who became pregnant and wanted to have the baby, but he didn't, and pressured her to get rid of it. And in a matter of weeks, she did. And this is why he uses not only to block out the noise,
Apathy.
but to stay emotionally detached and focused on the fact that he will be retiring in 7 days.
There wasn't one thing, I can tell you that.
Because thinking about the woman that left him and the child they almost had together will make him hate the city and its people, who have grown to accept depravity as normal.
Apathy.
And this is why he didn't let himself get upset like Mills about the cop, neglecting to check the fat man for vital signs. Focusing on one thing is how he protects himself from this city, and why he does his best to keep Mills from breaking into John Doe's apartment without a warrant. Because if he allows himself to get mad like Mills, he'll think twice about retiring and leaving the city in 7 days, and might even care about saving it. David Mills is a good man. However, John Doe is certain that David Mills is only good because there are consequences. And as far as John Doe is concerned, Somerset and Mills are hypocrites for arresting him for killing a lying lawyer who is paid to keep criminals on the streets.
Well, not anymore.
Like John Doe's own lawyer. He told Mr. Swart to tell them that he had 2 more bodies hidden away, but that he would only take Detective Mills and Somerset
Apathy.
to those bodies. Mills condemns Mr. Swart for defending John Doe, as John Doe condemned that greedy lawyer for defending murderers.
Well, not anymore.
And to John Doe, it felt good killing that greedy lawyer, as it felt good to Detective Mills when he shot and killed that junkie for shooting his partner before he put in for his transfer to this city. And because that junkie attempted to kill a cop, Mills didn't face any consequences for killing that junkie as he would have faced if he had killed Mr. Swart, John Doe's lawyer. And it felt good to Mills.
Where's my 13?
Shoving that photographer for taking his picture.
Get out! Hey!
And it felt good to Mills kicking in the door to John Doe's apartment, as good as John Doe felt killing sinners like that greedy lawyer, regardless of the consequences.
I'm setting the example.
For John Doe and David Mills are a lot alike in that neither of them is running away. Mills came from a nice quiet town and Doe is independently wealthy. Mills wants to save the city.
You care. You want? Damn right.
While Doe wants to get people's attention. Like those tenants at that apartment building ignoring all the warning signs when they overheard their neighbors fighting and not calling the police until they overheard the shotgun firing. When John Doe walks into the police station covered in blood to turn himself in, he sees Somerset and Mills and addresses them in a calm voice.
This I'm wrong.
They don't see or hear him until he starts screaming. Then they do, because minding your own business in this city is a science, and you will never get anyone's attention if you cry out for help.
Apathy.
But scream fire and people will come for the entertainment, as John Doe says.
Wanting people to listen.
You can't just tap someone on the shoulder to get their attention.
You have to hit them with a sledgehammer.
Then you'll have their complete attention. Just give them something that they've never seen before. 7 victims, the last 2 of which no one will ever forget. And because of this apathy, Somerset cannot understand why Mills would fight to be transferred to a city like this.
You care. You want? Damn right.
And why a wealthy, well-educated man like John Doe would choose to live in a city like this, because Detective Mills is an idealist and believes that the city is worth fighting for, and John Doe is a realist and believes that the city is worth killing for. They believe that in order to change things, you gotta get mad. As a young cop a long time ago, Detective Somerset was an idealist too. Like David Mills, Somerset thought that he could be the city's champion, that he could save it. But over time he learned that it was a hopeless cause, that he was fighting uphill against stupidity and apathy because no one cared and insanity was normal. Somerset realized that he had only 2 options: either join the insanity or become like Doe. Somerset remembers how it felt to be in love a long time ago and how he pressured her not to have the baby, but found ways to cope. As Doe's 7 victims found ways to cope by ignoring their problems. But this didn't make them go away.
Vibrating home.
any more than Somerset's metronome made his memories and regrets go away. And facing this truth, Somerset throws the metronome at the wall and breaks it. And after John Doe turns himself in and takes them to his last two victims, David Mills becomes John Doe's masterpiece, Wrath.
Oh, what's in the box?
Seems that envy is my sin.
But his downfall is a light that leads Detective Somerset out of the darkness of purgatory into the light. And although he is still doubtful that he or anyone else can ever turn the city around, he also knows that he cannot and will not retire as long as there is a good man in it worth saving, like David Mills. Somerset now knows that in order to change things, sometimes you gotta get mad.
Thank you.
Here's a few things you may or may not know about Se7en. Did you know that Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, and Gene Hackman
Popeye Doyle
turned down the chance to play Detective Somerset? Al Pacino decided to star in a film called City Hall instead, and can you believe that Gene Hackman could have gotten this role instead of Morgan Freeman, one of my favorite actors? Did you know that Denzel Washington and Sylvester Stallone turned down the chance to play Detective Mills, a decision that Denzel later regretted? Did you know that Fincher wanted to have constant rain throughout the film as a thematic motif to match the atmosphere of doom in Andrew Kevin Walker's script? Fincher also got production designer Arthur Max to make this depressing motif match the characters in the film. Did you know that Kevin Spacey had his name omitted from the film's credits and promotional materials to surprise the audience as to John Doe's identity? Did you know that the sloth or Vincent character in the film is black and not white, and that his name in the script is Zero? Did you know that the script gives John Doe's backstory? As a child, he was abused by a priest in a local parish where he got the idea for murdering his victims from a painting of the 7 deadly sins on the ceiling of the church? Did you know that Detective Mills shoots Detective Somerset in a standoff at the end of the film in the script? Did you know this, the biggest difference of all between the film and script? Where the film is ambiguous about Detective Mills' wife Tracy and Detective Somerset, the script is explicit and goes beyond how sexy her voice sounds on the phone in the film. In the script, they meet to talk in his car, get caught up in the moment, and end up kissing, her arms around his head type of kiss, which really puts things in the film into a sharper context, including his longing for the woman he talked out of having their child and John Doe's envy of David and Tracy's relationship, which is really Somerset's envy of their relationship. Once again, thanks for watching my analysis of director David Fincher's 1995 neo-noir psychological crime thriller Se7en, and be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Godfather of Cinema, and hit the bell for more film-related videos like this one. I will see you soon.